Have you ever felt like you were standing in the middle of a crowd, yet somehow invisible? As if no matter how kind you were or how much you tried, you still didn't belong? That's how this story begins, with one little life that nobody seemed to understand. In the heart of a warm countryside, where golden fields swayed gently in the summer breeze and storks glided lazily through the sky, there stood a quiet farmhouse. Behind it, a narrow canal wound through the meadows, and right at its edge, beneath a great tangle of burdock leaves as wide as dinner plates, a mother duck sat on her nest. The days had been long, and her legs ached from sitting so still, but her patience never wavered. She dreamed of the moment her little ones would break free from their shells and see the world for the very first time. At last, one bright morning, she heard a faint tapping, then another. The eggs trembled, cracked, and split open, and tiny yellow ducklings tumbled out, blinking against the sunlight. "Peep! Peep!" they cried in little voices. "Quack! Quack!" she answered warmly, gathering them close beneath her wings. Her heart swelled with pride. Soon they'd follow her to the pond, their reflections bobbing in the ripples, their little feet kicking in time. But there was one egg left, larger than the rest. It lay still. She waited through the afternoon. She waited through the next day. The other ducklings tumbled about in the grass, chasing bugs and toppling into one another, but the mother stayed by that last egg. She whispered to it, as if the little one inside could hear her. "Come now. The world is waiting for you." On the third morning, the shell finally cracked, and out came, well, not quite what she'd expected. This duckling was not bright yellow and fluffy. His feathers were gray, his body a little too big, his neck a little too long. He blinked with eyes softer than the summer sky. The other ducklings froze in place. "He's so strange," one whispered. "Why is he that color?" Another giggled. "He doesn't look like us at all," said a third. The mother tilted her head and studied him for a moment. Then she said firmly, "Different or not, he's mine, and that's that." She gathered them all and led them toward the pond, the morning sunlight dancing on the water's surface. One by one, the ducklings leapt into the pond. They splashed and paddled clumsily, learning as they went. But when the gray duckling slid into the water, something remarkable happened. He swam perfectly, his strokes smooth and sure, his body gliding with an ease that caught his mother's eye. "Perhaps you're not so strange after all," she murmured. But life outside the pond was not so kind. The moment they stepped into the barnyard, the staring began. Ducks, hens, and geese all turned to look. A sharp-voiced old duck strutted over. "What's that thing you've brought here?" she demanded. "We have too many ducklings as it is. And now, this ugly one?" A hen pecked at him. A goose spread its wings and chased him. Even his own brothers and sisters began to edge away from him. "Why can't you just look normal?" one said. "You ruin everything." Another quacked. "You're not one of us," a third added, turning away. The mother duck defended him at first, but after a while, even she fell silent. It wasn't that she stopped caring. She just didn't know what to say anymore. And the gray duckling began to shrink inside himself, speaking less, staying apart. One morning, after being pecked by a young rooster for no reason at all, the little duckling wandered to the edge of the pond and stared into the rippling water. "Maybe I don't belong here at all," he whispered. That night, while the others slept, he slipped away, past the pond, past the tall grasses, past the safe little world he'd known. He didn't have a destination, only the need to go. The world beyond was bigger and lonelier than he had imagined. The wind tugged at his feathers, and shadows stretched long across the fields. By dawn, he reached a moor, a wild place of reeds and shallow water that smelled of earth and rain. He nestled into the grass, too tired to move. Wild ducks swam nearby. They spotted him almost immediately. "Who are you?" they called. I don't know," he admitted. "You're very ugly," one remarked, swimming closer. "But we don't mind as long as you don't get in our way." He stayed there for a few days, resting. But peace doesn't last forever. One windy afternoon, 2 young geese landed beside him, laughing and loud. "Hey, ugly bird," one called. "Come with us. We're meeting others. Maybe you'll find someone who likes you." Before he could answer, a deafening bang cracked the air. The geese fell silent, then fell still. Smoke drifted over the reeds. Hunters, dogs barked, growing closer. The duckling froze, his heart thundering. A dog burst from the grass, teeth bared, and then stopped, sniffed him, and ran past without a second glance. The duckling stayed hidden until the danger passed. "Even the dog didn't want me," he said bitterly. Rain began to fall, cold and steady. He wandered on, his feet sinking into mud, his feathers plastered to his sides. By nightfall, a crooked little cottage appeared in the storm. The door was ajar, and he slipped inside. It smelled of bread and smoke. A woman lived there, with a sleek cat and a plump hen. The woman peered at him. "Perhaps you'll lay eggs," she mused. "We'll see." She let him stay, but the cat eyed him lazily. "Can you purr?" he asked. "No," said the duckling. The hen fluffed her feathers. "Can you lay eggs?" "No," he answered. "Then you're useless," they said in unison. He stayed quiet, keeping to the shadows. One morning, sunlight streamed through the open door, and a warm breeze carried the smell of water. His heart stirred. "I want to swim," he said softly. "Swim?" The hen laughed. "How foolish!" "Why get wet when you can stay dry?" the cat added. "I just want to be myself," the duckling murmured. "Then leave," they replied. So he did. He walked for hours until the trees around him burned with autumn colors. Leaves spiraled to the ground like falling embers. Winter was coming. He found a pond, already rimmed with ice, and tried to make it home. Each day he swam in circles to keep the water from freezing, but one night the ice spread too quickly. By morning he was trapped. A peasant came and freed him, tucking him into a warm cloth. But when the peasant's children tried to pet him, fear took over. He flapped wildly, knocking over the milk, skidding into the butter, scattering flour everywhere. The woman shouted. The children laughed and grabbed at him. He darted out the door into the snow. Winter was cruel. The wind cut through him like knives. Snow clung to his feathers. He curled beneath branches, shivering, surviving one frozen day at a time. And yet, he survived. When spring finally came, it came gently. The ice melted, the sun poured gold across the meadows, and flowers opened as if smiling at the sky. The duckling woke to warmth he had almost forgotten. His wings felt stronger now. He stretched them, and to his surprise, they carried him into the air. He flew, soaring over rivers and fields, the wind lifting him higher than he'd ever been. Below, in a blooming garden, lay a great lake, and on it, gliding like living clouds, were 3 swans. Their feathers shimmered in the sunlight, their long necks curved with elegance. The sight struck something deep inside him, a longing he couldn't name. "I will go to them," he decided, "even if they drive me away. Even if they hurt me, I'd rather face their beauty than be alone forever." He swam forward, his reflection rippling beneath him. And then he stopped. The bird looking back at him from the water was not gray, not awkward, but pure white, strong, graceful, beautiful. He blinked, turned his head. The reflection matched him, spread his wings. The reflection did too. It wasn't a trick. He was a swan. The swans saw him and began to glide toward him. But there was no hiss, no raised wings in warning, only soft eyes and bowed heads, welcoming him. Children ran to the shore, laughing. "Look, a new swan!" they called. "He's the most beautiful one!" Flower petals drifted onto the water. Bread was tossed in handfuls. And in that moment, the swan, The one who had been called ugly, useless, strange, lowered his head and let the truth sink in. He had never been wrong. He had never been a mistake. He had simply been waiting to grow into himself. Now, he had found not just beauty, but belonging. He looked at the sky, the light dancing in his feathers, and thought, I never dreamed of such happiness. Not when I was the lonely, laughed-at duckling. But maybe the world was just waiting for me to become who I was meant to be. And so he swam with the others, free at last, the ripples behind him sparkling in the sun, proof that sometimes what looks different at first is only something extraordinary in the making. Like, comment and subscribe for more magical tales. And remember, the most beautiful stories often begin with being misunderstood.